Welcome to Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Our guests share their hard-won wisdom to help you grow your coaching business and create a life of success. So get ready to unlock the blueprints to your success. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode. We are thrilled to have Sara Vatore. Soma Synthesis Studios is her company name. We're going to talk about somatic coaching, peak performance coaching. So welcome, Sara.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Sara, I'm excited to learn two things. I'm excited to learn about how did you end up becoming a coach, because I know everyone has a unique journey to get to this place. And then I've been seeing all kinds of things about somatic yoga and somatic this. But first of all, let's talk about your journey to becoming a coach.
Thanks so much for those questions. I was a guidance counselor in a high school and stepped into that environment and went, oh no one taught me about politics. No one taught me about systems. And I stayed for 5 years, but over those years, I started to train with my father, who is an internationally known sports performance consultant. And with the hope of leaving and starting my own practice at some point, I didn't know when I made that commitment. And I did a training called Somatic Experiencing, which is Peter Levine's work, where we're looking at our mammalian biology and how we're governed, and our behavior is governed, and our actions and all of our patterns stem from the fact that we're mammals and we're wired for survival. So in doing this training while a guidance counselor at the high school, I woke up to how shut down I had been. I woke up to the fact that I was living a life for everyone else around me and not connected to what was true for me and what I wanted and what I needed. I woke up to the fact that I was living in a body with a lot of chronic illness and pain that I had been ignoring and overriding and pushing through. And that was enough for me to say, I'm done. And I think it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like writing my 5th letter of recommendation for my high school seniors. And I was like, what if I put all of this focus and intention into my own thing? What could be possible? And that sort of was it for me. I ended up taking medical leave at the end of that school year and then didn't look back and started my own practice in kind of 2 prongs. I work a lot as a peak performance coach, so working with athletes who have blocks or fears, working with performers, working with entrepreneurs who are navigating imposter syndrome, confidence issues, negative thinking and doubts. And then this other pillar of working a lot with women and non-binary folk who want to feel more alive, feel more thriving energy in their bodies, feeling stuck in stress patterns, stuck in overwhelm like I was, and who are looking to really find that alignment in truth and step into the world in a bigger way. So I'm in those 2 prongs and then never went back. Everyone thought I was coming back, but I didn't.
That's amazing. I think when you get that light bulb moment of I've got to do my own thing, you need to follow that journey. That's what your soul's calling you to do. And it's really hard to go to a job when you know you're meant to do something else. So What does somatic mean?
Great question. So soma is Greek for body. So somatic is looking and working with our bodies. And I think people are trained in different things. So I'll just speak to the lens that I look at. And so I'm really working and helping people understand their nervous system and their wiring. Our nervous system really is governing our choices, our behavior, the patterns we're stuck in. And so a lot of people find me after they've done a lot of therapy or mindset coaching, and they like know what they want to shift and they know what they want to change, but their body's doing something different. So they know they need to say no, but then they don't. Or they know they need to speak up and they can't. Or they're pushing through and showing up in big ways in their business and then crashing afterwards, or navigating a lot of like anxiety and stress in the process. And so I help people really understand how to nourish our nervous systems, how to get our nervous systems back to a really generative cycle so that we can have all the energy and capacity to be doing the things we want to do in our business and our lives and our performance.
I can totally see it makes sense that an athlete who's trying to do everything to be at peak performance would need that. But I also love that you're working with entrepreneurs because we always talk about their confidence is the most important thing. If you don't have confidence, everything kind of falls apart.
Absolutely. And we can want to have all the confidence in the world. If our body is registering fear of in some way or danger, that's going to override. And then we do funky things. As entrepreneurs, we procrastinate. We don't respond to the email. For me, I had a lot of fear of reaching out after and following up with people. Like I would have a connection call with someone and then I'd follow up with an email and then nothing. And then I'm like, okay, they don't want to work with me. And then I wasn't until I started working with my own coach. I was like, oh, I can email again and again and again. And I'm not bugging anyone, but I had a fear of bugging people. But then my follow-up emails turn into clients who were like, thank you so much for staying on top of this. You fell to the end of my email. So there are all of these ways that fear shows up in our bodies and our systems in really big ways and then gets in the way of us really running our businesses generatively and not crashing or getting sick all the time, which I think also can happen. We push through, we override, we're trying to do it all as entrepreneurs, and then we collapse, we get sick, and then that interrupts how we're showing.
Does your coaching involve more around like talk coaching, or is there a physical element to it?
Great question. So it's mixed. So I have also a in-person practice where I'm doing hands-on nervous system support on bodies. And so there's a coaching element to that. I literally have hands-on people to help their nervous system come back really out of urgency and holding and like the churn that we can all get in and not come out of. So I do that in an office, and then I offer retreats, healing weekend retreats for individual people to come one-on-one with me, customized, so that they really can have more expansiveness in their body and nervous system as they're moving forward. In my virtual sessions and coaching, I'm doing a lot of talking, and then it's also a lot of learning how to connect to the body, learning how the nervous system communicates to us. And we can learn that, but most of us are pretty cut off from that, which is our connection to sensation, our connection to inside what's going on that's giving us signals, our heart rate, that lump in the throat that we might get, heat in a variety of ways. There are all the time our nervous system is communicating these messages to us. And so we can get really nuanced and get really skilled at learning how to listen and connect and interrupt when things are in funky ways and bring things back, moving into really generative cycles that we can harness for our expansiveness and for our business. And that includes rest, which a lot of us aren't good at. And then that also includes periods of really being in heightened expressions of action. And for many of us, we feel like we have to be in that all the time. We have to be constantly generating leads and reaching out and doing all of these things. And we miss this really critical piece of our productivity, which is the rest and the connection to the body and the allowing for us to address needs that we're ignoring.
Can you share maybe a client story where you were doing virtual coaching with them and maybe like how you helped them get into their body, or maybe what they were experiencing and how you helped them resolve it?
There's so many clients that come to mind, but one I think that can be really relatable is I was working with an adult male in his 50s with 2 kids and a job that was draining the life out of him. And he came because he was really sick of exploding on his kids and his wife, and he didn't want to do that anymore, and he couldn't stop himself. He knew that he would get angry, and he knew that these things he was making into a bigger deal than they were, but then it would happen in moments, and it was really making his kids scared of him, and it was making his wife angry at him as well. And so in starting to work, we identify what does it feel like in your body when you're at what I would call baseline. So I use a 0 to 10 scale with clients around body sensation. When I am a 0, which is calm and grounded and centered, what does that feel like in my body? Most of the time, particularly for adults, we don't know what that feels like very much because we don't spend a lot of time there. And I think it's a really important place to start, because it's unreasonable to expect our bodies to calm down or feel better or be centered and ready if we're never that. So in a stressed out moment, it's not okay to expect myself to be fine. It's an unreasonable expectation. And a lot of us get very mad at ourselves around our patterns, or we're getting mad that we're responding in this way. But if we don't have what I would call like a felt sense experience, right? Like real sensation based in my body around what does it feel like when I'm calm or grounded, or we can apply that to anything. What does it feel like when I'm confident? Right? What does it feel like I'm ready to speak in front of hundreds of people, right? That feels very different in my body than when I'm relaxed, than when I'm worried, than when I'm angry, right? All of these ways that we show up, the ways we be in the world, feel a certain way. So starting with people to learn, okay, when it's generative, when I'm calm, when I have a moment, connecting to spaces and places where I am lower on that number scale. Maybe I'm not a 0, but maybe I'm a 2 or a 3. And starting to bring awareness to how my body feels in those moments. So then doing inquiry, going away from the sessions and starting to he was started to be in his life and started to identify when everyone's asleep and I get an hour and it's quiet in my house, like something shifts in my chest, something settles in my stomach, like I actually am calmer. And so we started to build awareness of that. Because we're wired to survive, our brain and awareness and attention is very good at looking at dysfunction. It's looking for where the problem is. And so we're going to orient to that. So we have to make extra effort to intentionally choose to pay attention in a different way. Otherwise, learning and starting with him at baseline, like where's your baseline? What does that feel like is the entry point in? And then over time, recognizing what I would call choice point. We can't change anything if we're not aware that it's happening in the first place. So starting to build awareness around, as my number starts to tick up on the scale, what's happening in my body? What's happening in my thoughts? Oftentimes we're having specific thought loops or patterns that we can get into. So our thoughts can be a great way to bring awareness to the fact that our whole nervous system is jacked up or activated, as I would call it. And so starting to learn and pay attention and notice. For him, he noticed before his kids got off the bus, he was already anticipating an issue. He could feel in his system, as we really started to get nuanced, he was already mad at them for throwing their stuff on the ground, and it hadn't even happened yet. In those moments, as he noticed, working of a lot of different kinds of nervous system settling tools and different ways that we can connect to the body and help the physiology settle. And he would start to apply those tools before his kids got home, so that he could greet them from more of a baseline place. And he was working from home, so that takes an effort. We have to pause our work, we have to reset ourselves, we have to get ready to then be on in our family in a different way. So we developed systems for him to end his day or to pause his day if he needed to then be on with his kids, so that it could feel complete. Because I think a lot of us who are navigating like work family stuff, it's very hard to turn off our work because we're addicted to it, or we like it, or we're in it. 100%. So learning how to create those systems. I'm starting my day. What does that look like? How do I enter into that? Not when I wake up in the morning, but like, when am I starting my day? So many of us start our day, our brain turns on and we grab the computer and we pop it open in bed and we're starting to type all the way. But what would it be like to actually have a start point and to have an end point, and to really make sure we're bookending when we're working and when we're having family time and when we have alone time and space for ourselves? And through doing that and learning about choice point in those moments, there can become greater agency, and then different choices get to be made. So that was one piece. And then over time working with him, it was helping him learn how to have healthy expressions of aggression and anger, helping him be able to physically at a body level, at a somatic level, be able to get out some of the angst that he was holding inside. So for this particular client, he really liked to work out. So that looked like he had a punching bag downstairs. So that looked like he would do some punching bag stuff. So what's really important with the exercise piece is then we also have to pause after I punch for a bit and let my whole body settle, right? I have people who are addicted to work and then who just do CrossFit, right? And then we're just we're staying in the churn, staying in the churn. And then we don't sleep because my body just keeps doing this thing. So it's creating spaces and places for healthy aggression, healthy expression, coupled with a way to help the body then rest and settle. And then he'd go, and so he would do rounds of this. So he'd do 5 minutes. I'm going to sit and let everything, like a snow globe. You shake the snow globe, you put the snow globe down, and everything settles. The body's designed in the same way. And that's something that I taught him how to do so that we're reprogramming the nervous system. The nervous system's designed to take that activation energy to mobilize for threat. We're not designed then to stay stuck there, right? And the stuck there is adrenaline and cortisol and all of these chemicals and hormones that we produce that then break our bodies down, right? And make us more tired or make us less efficient or make us have less patience or brain fog. And so if we can help throughout a day interrupt the churn and bring our nervous system down over time, when I do that regularly over time, that's going to build more like health in my nervous system cycle.
I just find it so interesting because I feel like a lot of the information for those of us that are entrepreneurs and we're always on this journey around improving our mindset and meditation and all the things, I think your explanation just explains so much to me.
It's interesting because I've recently this year have had just an influx of inquiries from coaches and practitioners who want to consult with me, who are bringing cases to me and are asking for my feedback because how my dad started to blend somatic experiencing too. He had this group of specific athletes who had specific blocks and fears that he just couldn't make the kind of progress that he was making with his other athletes. And these athletes are gymnasts, they're divers, they're equestrians, they're athletes that have trauma in training, right? You hurt yourself in like you make a mistake in gymnastics and hurt yourself. You split a beam, you fall off, you bash a leg, same thing in diving. So there's a particular grouping of people that we all have in our practices that our typical or traditional step-by-step process isn't going to reach. And so the somatic piece comes in for those clients to start to look at what's really governing the behavior, because it's not our mind. It could be this whole chicken before the egg conversation, like what came first around mindset or the body, but it's all one, it's all connected. And if we've done a lot of mindset work, it's probably a nervous system issue.
Something that probably increases as you get older. Because I feel like as a kid, you're outside playing, you're climbing, you're sliding, you're much more physical. And I feel like as we get older, we're typically less physical. And so we're more in our head instead of our body. And our body just hangs out there. And then we get in a routine where we're doing this over and over again. And it's just staying up here.
I think another piece of this, another component is that we hold all of these upsetting experiences in our DNA from our ancestors, from our parents, all the patterns that they experienced when we're in our womb, in our mom, they're not separate from her. We think we're the same. So we're marinating and growing in an environment designed to survive in that woman's world. And so if our parents had trauma, if our grandparents had trauma, we then come into the world with that already imprinted on our beautiful, healthy imprint. So a lot of times I work with people who come and say, I've had no trauma. I don't know why I'm like this. I don't know why I can't change this. Nothing bad has happened. I had great parents, all of this. And for that grouping of people, it's usually we're carrying ancestral trauma. And this is not woo. There's a lot of studies that have been done around epigenetics and around our wiring and around conception and birth trauma and what happens in utero that then is affecting how we show up in the world. I work a lot with high school age kids and young adults also, because a lot of performance problems in sports come out when all of a sudden it's important because of college and I want to be recruited. And now all of a sudden there's lots of issues. And our younger generations are not connected to their bodies. Yes, they're outside. Yes, they're doing all the sports, but we're running them ragged. They're completely overscheduled. They're totally stressed out. And we have a mental health crisis. And we're trying to remedy that with medication, which isn't addressing the underlying foundational issue, which is it's a nervous system issue. It's not depression and anxiety. That's just what the body is doing. It's not like there are other ways that we can be addressing. This is actually how our bodies work. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need to go on medication. You need to go out in the sun. You need to get off screens. There are foundational like nourishment pieces that we're completely missing from our youth, but I would also say for us in our work. If stuff's not going well, are you checking your basics? Have you hydrated today? Are you eating like nourishing things? Did you sleep? Are you going to the bathroom when your body tells you to go to the bathroom? Are you holding it just till the end of the meeting? There are ways that we can start to take care of ourselves foundationally that we're not doing that's going to impact and help in all these other ways. Our mindset, how we feel in our bodies, how we feel about ourselves and our businesses. It's a really interesting conversation.
I think that's so important. And I've really connected some dots today with you. So thank you.
I love that. It is so important. This hustle bustle culture is burning us all out. That's the other thing. It's not even working, right? When my business is about creating spaces for healing, for integration, for expansion, because that's my work in the world. I'm a homeschooling mom. I have 2 boys. I'm running my business. I don't get a lot of space. And if I'm not creating space and I'm not putting the work down, I'm not as productive. When I take a full day off and I don't look at my email and I get to have space for myself and I don't just check socials real quick or just do this thing real quick, right? Which is hard for me. I'm not great at this. This is my work. It's why I teach it to other people, right? But when we create that day off, my next day is unbelievably productive. I can't believe how much I get done. I can't believe how clear I am. I can't believe how quickly I move things through. So our rest, our regeneration, our not buying into hustle bro stuff then creates really productive, generative, healthy businesses for us. It's amazing. We've all stayed stuck at our computer reading the same line over and over again in an email. It's time to shut it down at that point.
I was going to ask you if you could give one tip to make the world a better day. Do you have another piece of advice that you would like to share with business owners to help them to be more successful and to have a better life?
What immediately came to mind as you said that was, what do I need? Right? It's a very powerful question, and inviting you all listening to program that question into your phone multiple times a day. What do I need right now? Because there's so much clicking into autopilot and just moving through and not slowing down and checking in. We're missing really rich opportunities to take a minute to take a breath, to go run to the bathroom, to get a glass of water, to decide, actually, you know what? I can't see this client this afternoon. It's too much for me today. Those moments of just pausing and checking in with what's actually true for me, not what I think I should be doing, not what my CEO in my head is telling me I have to do, but genuinely inside, what do I need right now? That question really can make big changes for ourselves in our lives and our businesses.
Sara, this has been amazing and enlightening in so many ways. So thank you again. But I also want to ask if people want to talk to you about working with you, because there's just so much positivity and so much more that they can accomplish that they may not realize. How would you like people to reach out to you?
Oh, great. So my website's a great place to find me. It's saravatore.com. I'm in my 8th year of my business, so there's close to 8 years of a blog on there with lots of information and all of the different offerings. I identify as multidimensional, so I offer lots of different kinds of things because it's just what lights me up. So you'll see the retreats I was talking about, the somatic coaching. I do offer consultation and mentorships to seasoned coaches and new coaches and practitioners who are looking and curious to blend some of the more somatic based practices into their work with their clients. And you'll see lots of other things on there as well. I also have a podcast called Multidimensional Transmissions, so you can catch that on any of the major podcast platforms. And I've interviewed different multifaceted, multi-passionate entrepreneurs who are blending different modalities and different things into their work in the world as a way to just reflect. We don't have to be one thing. We get to include it all. And for those of you who are interested in any of the sports referral piece that I was talking about, the performance piece, my other website is called peakperformwithsara.com, and you can find information on there about my performance.
Fantastic. And we'll put all those links in the show notes if you didn't catch that verbally while listening to the podcast. So, Sara, we can't thank you enough. I've got a ton of notes myself, some things to remember to implement. And yeah, this has just been amazing and enlightening. And I'm so excited that you joined us today.
Thanks so much for having me and inviting me on.
Thanks for joining us today on Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights. We hope you're leaving this episode with inspiration to take your coaching business and your life to the next level. If you found value in this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and share it with someone else who you think might benefit from hearing it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.